What makes Aaron Rodgers, and I'll say this, people forget how special Aaron Rodgers is. And you have to watch the game to understand what he has to do week in and week out to get his team ready. He doesn't have we were just talking to Brendan Jacobs, talking about, obviously, Daniel Jones in the season he had. Go look who Aaron Rodgers was throwing to this year. I mean, his best wide receiver was ranked 142nd in all of the league. So just look at the numbers he was putting up, and everybody says, "Oh, he's fallen off. He's not the same quarterback." 2 years, for 2 years, back-to-back years, he was the MVP. How after 1 year he's not the star quarterback he was the year before? I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. And you play with these quarterbacks.
It's the problem of not going to Super Bowl. I mean, and then at times he just rubs people the wrong way. I would just say that's more what it is. I mean, he just rubs them, and so it might get in the way of really, again, how amazing he is. The other side is that sometimes when people are just absolutely, when they're just amazing players, that you get used to it, right? And until somebody else is standing in that position, you really don't appreciate how good he is. You don't appreciate the touch that he has and his ability to throw a ball. Like, not much fall off at all. I mean, just understands the touch, positioning, all of that. And then the relationship with the head coach, it seemed at first was going to just tear the team apart. All of a sudden, hold up, took it to another level.
Well, who's the best quarterback you ever played against, and why?
Man, that's a hard question. I played against Tom Brady, played against Peyton Manning, played against Aaron Rodgers, and so I guess again that's a hard question, because when you're talking about just quarterbacking, it is also part of a team, right? So definitely, I would say Peyton was amazing, but again, nothing. The greatness of them as quarterbacks, of him and the Tom Brady, are really what they can get out of their team and the team that they're a part of. So from their coaching and and there's their whole system that's around them. So I would have to say definitely Tom, again, the greatest winning quarterback ever. Peyton Manning right there with them. And then what you've already saw, with Aaron Rodgers, his numbers and everything is ridiculous. Again, I had the blessing of playing with Steve Young with the 49ers. Again, you're splitting hairs in terms of who's just the best. I mean, you could win with all of those guys.
So I want to ask you this, because you say you grew up in Southern California, and you played in St. Louis with the Rams too. So the Rams moving to LA. So what was your reaction at the time? And how do you think the experiment has gone so far? Obviously winning a Super Bowl, and St. Louis too. Do you think they could get another team again?
I don't know if St. Louis will get another team. I mean, it'll take a lot to be able to get that done. I mean, the NFL is pretty stuck on the 32 because it evens things up. I mean, one of the greatest things that happened in this game was, even it up at 32 and cleaning up the NFC Central, where you don't have Tampa Bay playing with Detroit and Chicago and Minnesota and Green Bay. And even like the NFC West. The NFC West, when I first came in, was San Francisco, St. Louis, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Carolina. That was the West, right? With only really one West team. So that was the best thing in terms of being able to align. But when you talk about the Rams moving to St. Louis, they actually moved when I went to Stanford. That's when they left. So I wasn't at home when they moved to St. Louis. But what a great opportunity! I think too often the history of the game can be lost in the fact that we clean up history, right? So we clean up visuals. So that people don't really get to see these old stadiums that are mixed-use stadiums, that are just not good football stadiums. And, across the board, that's what it was. They don't realize that when I went to the Bears, that was the first year of Hallis Hall. And before Hallis Hall was at Lake Forest College, right? Before Atlantic Health, where the Jets are training, they were at Hofstra, right? So that's the NFL. This back in the day. So that when the Rams were in Anaheim, their facility was at an elementary school. Wow. That they had. It was a kind of a school that wasn't in use, and that's what they used as their facility. And so their ability to go to St. Louis was that Georgia could actually cash out some of the money, but they gave them a facility like it was an amazing facility, especially at that time, and continued to be a great facility. A football-only stadium, which right now just doesn't seem like, oh wow, but at that time, a football-only stadium without dirt on it, with great sight lines, and the fans is close inside. I mean, what? And then Georgia was from St. Louis, and so it was natural that she would go back. But then, if you say now in the transition, it was, with Stan Kroenke owning a team that, he had to try to see, because he was a guy that's from Missouri. He tried to see, is this workable potentially to keep it? But the opportunity of coming back to LA and really him leading the comeback, which was always, the problem with LA was that someone had to lead making the stadium. They always try to put it on the city, always try to put it on somebody else to get it done. But when you got the money of a Stan Kroenke, right, it can get done. And so with that leadership, they will come back, and that stadium is just absolutely amazing. SoFi got the Chargers up in there now too, and really have just completely changed the game, and brought this different feel to LA. And it took a leader like Stan to be able to get that done, and he did.
We are talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Draft. Last question for us before we let you go, and we really appreciate your time as always. But one of our fans had a question for you. John Suggs asks, out of the teams Chris Draft has been on, which was his memorable team he enjoyed playing for, and why is the Panthers? Why is what did he say? And why?
Oh, because he's from Carolina, so he's saying why is it the Panthers?
I don't know.
Why is it the Panthers? So I'll say that playing in Carolina, I gave you guys a history in saying this transition. So Carolina had the best field in the league for a long time. Now they put turf in, but it was grass. Jerry Richardson was a former football player that recognized, I want a great field for my guys. So it's like a putting green of a field. So again, not trying to slight any of the other teams, but when I was playing with the Niners, there was still a baseball field out there, for part of the season. Not trying to slight it, but at Soldier, the field was thick and again, not saying anything against the city, because at the end of the day, it's what we do on the field. And so I can say that playing on that field in Carolina was just, I felt the difference on my body. And I would say even more so, I felt the difference on Tuesday, the off day, because the recovery from playing on grass all the time was totally different. So I absolutely enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it as a small city that my first year I lived in an apartment right basically across the street from the stadium, where I actually walked home from games. And so
that's fun.
There is not too many places where that could happen. The facility was actually at the stadium. So even that, there were so many opportunities of being able to engage in the Charlotte community that was different in other places. Again, not that I didn't do it and absolutely loved. So I can say I loved being in Chicago, San Fran, Atlanta, St. Louis, Buffalo, Washington, loved it. It's just that they were different experiences.
Yeah, Buffalo was cold. I can tell you that.
I mean, it's what it is. But the people there are amazing. Yes. The Bills Mafia. Somebody asked me, like, how do they deal with the fact that it's cold? And it's like, well, they just put some more clothes on, right? I mean, they are ready for it. If you're a Buffalo fan, it's not like you're thinking, oh, we're just going to go in the dome. It's no dome, right? The being a Bills fan is to look outside and see what the weather is and just dress accordingly, and let's go get it.
Yeah, but
they warm up by slamming on the tables.
That's true too. Yeah,
sometimes.
One more question for me: who do you have winning the Super Bowl this year? Who do you have going to the Super Bowl this year?
Man, that's a great question. I would say, I'll have to say, based on what's happened. How my guys respond up in Buffalo will be, big. So I would have said Buffalo, AFC, and right now the way the 49ers are playing, both of them. I mean, the 49ers are bullies right now. I mean, they are absolutely, living up to that bang, bang, Niner gang, mindset. They are bullying people. So I would say those two.
You want to hear something, Chris? Before the season started, the two teams that I had going to the Super Bowl, San Francisco and the Buffalo Bills. So there you go.
There you go.
Before the season
We're on the same page.
Yeah, and that was before the season started. So I just have and I stick with my teams. Everybody says, well, when the playoffs come around, why don't you change it? I stick to what I had in the beginning of the season. If both those teams make it to the playoffs, I'm sticking with it, and I think it's going to be Buffalo and San Francisco.
I mean, it makes sense when you look at how the teams finished the season. It makes all the sense in the world. I mean, Buffalo was a couple of seconds away from beating the Chiefs and rolling into the AFC Championship and being there. So they playing with a chip. They had a chip on their shoulder from the beginning of the season. And then the same thing with the 49ers. I mean, they lost the third game to the Rams, but they had beat them the two other times. So it was obvious that they are a great team that then upgraded by adding a Christian McCaffrey. So watch out.
Well, we really appreciate everything, all the time that you gave us, the stories. By the way, I feel bad. I thought your wife lived through that, but I'm very, very sorry for your loss. I didn't know the story, but fantastic stories with the foundations and the time that you put into your foundations. It's fantastic. You're a fantastic person. Keep up the good work. We'll get you on very, very soon. We really appreciate you, man.
Awesome. You guys have a good one.